Hello and welcome to Metal Hellsinger 8 Hells All Forced Encounters. This is an any difficulty speedrun, though for purposes of this submission, this will be considered an easy difficulty or lamb difficulty speedrun. Yes, this will be me dubbing over a video of my current PB, mostly because it's a rhythm shooter, and none of the BPMs in this game, except for the 4th and 5th hells, are the same, and the boss fight tracks are the same. Otherwise, the BPM is constantly changing on you from level to level, and even from the level to the boss. So, it is a tough game to run and commentate on at the same time. But, for now, let me explain what this run is while the run begins. Let me get this cursor off the screen here. So, it's basically going from the 1st Hell Vogue all the way to the 8th Hell Shoal. As you can see in my splits, we use a standard loadout with Paz, Terminus, the Vulcan crossbow, which fires explosive rounds. So, again, explosive bullets. Sure, we're going to use those. AoE damage is the best. We love AoE damage. And the Hellcrow, hellish boomerangs that are very, very useful against bosses, especially with our sigils that we use. The Last Breath Aegis 3, which means we will be running at low health the entire time, because when we are at low health we deal 100% more damage, and the Ghost Rounds 3, which means we do we have 8 extra rounds every time we swap weapons. We have 8 more rounds before reloading. They are not permanent, that's why they're called ghost rounds, but since we will be quick swapping our weapons back and forth between our secondary and our primary, the Hellcrow and the Vulcan, we will be constantly replenishing those, so minimally reloading. One comment I will say here before properly starting the run and the commentary is, please ignore some of these splits. I did have to load in a old set of splits for this run, so while it is still a PB compared to the 5420 I was improving it on, it is not as dramatic a PB as this set of splits makes it out to be. But without further ado, we will jump right into this run. Thankfully, we are able to skip every single cutscene by spamming the escape or space key, and start out with some nice schmovement. Everyone loves some schmovement in a rhythm game. The basic movement of this game is the Devil's Flight combo. Let me guarantee us some 720p action here. There we go, that's better quality for us. The basic movement is the Devil's Flight combo, a dash and a jump at the same time. It's much faster than just dashing or just running. And as you can see, we're in the first battle arena of Vogue here, and I seem to be in a bit of a rhythm. It's a rhythm game, of course, so being in a rhythm is a bit natural, but I'm just perched here. I know exactly where the enemies are going to spawn. Reason being, it's very similar to Doom in the aspect that many of the battle arenas are more or less scripted. There is some disparity as to where enemies can spawn based off of your location in their arena, based off of how much damage you've taken, I believe, and a few other factors that I cannot necessarily name off the top of my head, or just because I do not know them. That is the simple fact of the matter there, but with standardized setups we are able to more or less script a lot of the battle arenas that are in the All Forced Encounters run. So, as you see, in the second battle arena here, I'm clearing it out, I'm seeing exactly where all these enemies are spawning, and I'm already moving as that door drops to keep my momentum going. Not wasting any time, that behemoth drops down. That's the enemy with the giant hook on its hand. These little guys, the guys with the cannons on them, are cambions, and then the small fry enemies are marionettes. They are our standard enemies for this game. Cambions and behemoths do have elite versions of themselves. Elites are more or less just stronger versions of the enemies. Cambions have shield cambion variants. Elite behemoths are basically just behemoths with guns instead of swords. They're cool, they're fun, they're annoying, good for damaging down though. One thing I will say as we go through this third battle arena here, you see the green crystals and the red crystals in this battle arena. The green crystals are Styx crystals, the red crystals are Chaos crystals. Green crystals we want to avoid at all costs, so you'll see me breaking them and then avoiding them until those green pellets on the floor disappear. Those green crystal pellets are health, and well, if we're trying to stay on low health, we don't want to heal. Healing loses us time. The red crystals are somewhat useful because they are chaos crystals. They will explode and deal damage to our enemies around us, but we are now on our first boss fight. This is the Red Judge, aspects of the Red Judge. Sadly, in this fight, I did miss the early cycle and had to deal with the Red Judge moving. If you're fast enough, you can get the Red Judge to stay right in the center there, skip a lot of that downtime and a lot of that movement. Thankfully, I was on a very, very good pace leading up to this, so if I remember correctly, I do get sub 4 out of this first floor here, this first hell. Good enemy management. Those enemy spawns are somewhat random, but mostly a similar pattern every time. And using the Hellcrow there, the double-bladed boomerangs to get through. Aspect defeated, and plenty of time to go. Moving on to Stygia, the second of the 8 hells. And honestly, my favorite split, but if I remember this PB run well, I actually had a very, very bad start on this Stygia. The Voke that I had in this run was really more my saving grace than anything, because I just could not find my rhythm, and was dealing with a few lag spikes as you saw there. Could not get my movement, could not find my rhythm, and that is a bad problem to have when you're having this game. I will say, it does get a lot easier to find your movement, find your rhythm, once you have damage down. Reason being, if you heard during the last floor, when we are on low health, the music will fade out to the background, and you'll hear a pulsing beat. Similar to a metronome or a heartbeat. That is the exact tempo of the floor you're on, so I do like to think of it as kind of a built-in metronome. It's supposed to help you get back on beat so that you can build in a slaughter or some sort of way to keep yourself alive while you are on low health for casual players, but as speedrunners, we kind of abuse it. We force ourselves onto low health and deal more damage while staying much more consistently on rhythm. We do in fact use it as a metronome. Going through this next battle arena here in Stygia, taking intentional damage here from some of the cambions in the floor here. Did not get the damage down I wanted in this floor either. Stygia was just not going the way I wanted it to. However, the back half of Stygia did go very, very well. That front half can go much faster, however, I have seen it go a lot faster than I've done it in this run, and I have the capability of doing it much faster. That green enemy that you saw there was your introduction to Stalkers. They're very fast, they like to teleport around, they like to hit you both up close in melee and at a range. They are honestly the bane of my existence just after Eyeless. Void Stalkers, their elite counterpart, are honestly not nearly as bad as their default counterpart. Their default form is so much worse than their elite counterpart, despite the fact that elites are supposed to be worse. And you can see a bit of the standardized spawns at work here in this battle arena, just enemies popping up, knowing almost where they are before they even spawn, and then a little bit of movement here. My favorite little bit of movement in this floor. Stygia has to be one of my favorite splits, if not my favorite split of this run. Is it my best split? No. Is it my favorite? Yes. This is the most dangerous part of the split here, avoiding all those Styx crystals, the green crystals there, you shatter one of those and you stand too close to it, especially with the up and down movement that we're doing here across these sets of stairs, and you lose a lot of time from that accidental heal. You do have to try and damage back down to get back into Aegis mode if you damage down unintentionally. It becomes very difficult to manage that health pool because you're thrown off, because you lose your metronome, you are dealing less damage, so the enemy patterns that you're familiar with drop away. It's honestly a testament to some of the highest level players of this game, and I will pridefully, admittedly, include myself in that a little bit. How they're able to recover from unintentional heals like that sometimes. I know that later on in the run I do have a few unintentional heals, and I believe even a death at one point, so I will gladly talk about those when I get there. But for now, I do intentionally pick up a little bit of health there for safety, because you are able to carefully pick up a few crystals instead of all of them if you do it right. But working through this boss fight here in Stygia, we do manipulate the boss's attack pattern by standing pretty far back with the Hellcrow and aiming for the head to get that 1800 instead of 1400 with the headshot bonus. And the way I like to do this second wave of enemies between phases is I like to fire that ultimate from the Vulcan to suck in all the small enemies, and then manage the Stalker that spawns with them on its own. This last phase of the boss is just a bit of an auto-scroller. There's no way to avoid the attack animation, even though you prevent the attack from happening by damaging it fast enough. Thankfully, the boss does not soft lock, as some other bosses do try to do, but then we burn the Hellcrow's ultimate to damage down the final bit of health just a little bit faster. It's just barely a little bit faster if you're able to time the ultimate right, and you get a wonderful split like that, getting out of Stygia in 9 minutes and 17 seconds total combined with that Voke. It's not bad at all, but I do know that based off of the splits I have for my true PBs, or at least my IL splits, I should say, my IL PB splits, it would theoretically be possible to get out of Stygia in under 9 minutes in an 8 Hells run. It's been done by some of our best runners. This is the first introduction to an elite. This is your shield Cambion. I call him Carl the Cambion. Why? Because it's funny. If you know me, you know I like to make up random names for enemies in my games, or just random names for anything in my games that I play. If you've seen my BPM run, you know about Gary, and Gary Incorporated. But this first battle arena here in Yelm does open with a bunch of these Cambions and a few marionettes, but we do have a standardized layout for it. This is the layout I use. This is the IL strat that is used for most runners. Aside from dropping down there, that was admittedly unintentional, but it did work out in my favor because one of the shield Cambions for the final wave of enemies there did spawn down there, and the other one spawned up in that top right corner. We gotta drop down there. That bug that you saw crawling across the top of that ridge was an Eyeless. Eyeless, the bane of my existence. They spit up acid, and acid does AoE damage as well, and it lingers. It's absolutely horrible, especially when you're playing on low health constantly. You accidentally step in a pool of acid, and, well, you can accidentally take a death without even realizing it, or damage down to a point where one hit from anything will kill you. There's a couple of Eyeless in this battle arena. We already killed one of them, but this battle arena is, despite being probably the most confined, probably one of my favorites, honestly. A lot of marionettes, a lot of tight spaces, a lot of good movement that needs to be done, but also a couple of Eyeless being introduced to you, a couple of Stalkers being thrown at you as well. It's just a really well-designed, claustrophobic battle arena. It's claustrophobia done right. I absolutely love it. The devs, the outsiders, the team producing this game behind it, clearly put a lot of thought into the battle arenas when they were originally making this game. It is absolutely lovely. Going through this cathedral here is probably actually my second worst battle arena in this floor. There's a lot of them. I guess I should probably call them Death Gardens, as the game does, since Yelm has specifically Death Gardens. This is the final wave here. A Shield Cambion, a Behemoth, and another Cambion all the way across the way. Consistently, this is the reason I say it's my second worst. I'm consistently fighting with it, but here is the one major tech of this floor, the one major skip we've got. I'm not great at it, but it's basically a faster version of a stair climb. We have these little platforms here. I do an abridged version of it that is still faster than just doing the stair climb itself, but I'm still not comfortable enough with it to do a full proper version of it yet. And here's one of those unintentional heals I was talking about. This is where we actually do like the Eyeless just a little bit, though we'll never admit it to them. That acid ticking down over time does help us out just a little bit. And this is also why we hate Behemoths. Behemoths are slow and their attacking AI is not the best. They take a long time to register that a player is there, they take a long time to wind up, they take a long time to swing, and if you calculate the damage wrong and you're already low, they can just one-shot you and make you take an unintentional death that you were already trying to avoid, just like that. Speak of the devil. And then you'll have to damage back up to 16 Fury, you'll have to damage back down to low health. Thankfully, if you remember where certain runes are in the arenas that you're playing in, you can pick up Fury upgrades or Fury maxes like I just did. And again, we're going to try and work with the Eyeless if it'll work with us, but Eyeless didn't want to work with us, so instead we use the Shield Cambion's Fireball that will spread out over time and just wiggle back and forth on that Fireball's ring to take ourselves down a little more, because again, we don't like Behemoths. Behemoths stink, they're mean, they're slow, they're mean, and we don't like going slow, we like going fast. Speaking of going fast, we're going to try and use the crossbow here instead of the Hellcrow to shatter all 4 of those Chaos Crystals around this first phase of the boss here. Another aspect of the Red Judge, just getting rid of those Chaos Crystals. They won't really help us. They're one and done usages. No real reason to keep them around, so we quickly just clear out this phase of enemies. You see those little sparks of the boss starting to reconfigure, and you know you're moving on to the next phase. You don't have a marionette just hiding somewhere trying to ruin your day, make you lose time on your run. I like to fire that cloud there, try and suck a few enemies in. The reason I was jumping up there to shoot downwards was specifically for that Cambion that I knew was going to spawn there. Sadly, that Eyeless spawned somewhere that I'm not usually used to seeing it spawn. So, losing some time to a bad spawn from the Eyeless, losing some time to healing unintentionally, because this last phase is kind of an auto-scorer. It's going to go down and back up a few times. But not being able to damage it down as fast as I'd like is very inconvenient. Makes me regret not having those Chaos Crystals up here, because those Chaos Crystals might have been able to damage me back down into the final phase, but still saved time. Not nearly as much time as I would have liked to have saved, but still saved time. Here we go into Encaustus. Probably my actual favorite split of the run. A little bit of a menuing error there. We do lose time from menuing, but here we go. Encaustus is a little bit difficult in its opening here. I did try something a little bit different. Now, using Paz on those marionettes, not different. Considered trying to use it there, didn't use it on those marionettes, but did use it on those marionettes. That has actually now become my go-to, is using it on those two waves of marionettes. We try to avoid that eyeless way over there, spitting acid, don't want to take any unnecessary damage. Try and take out the stalker as it appears, and find those last few straggling marionettes. This is where I always lose a good few seconds, because there's always a straggling marionette or two. You can hear me, even confused. Ever confused, because there's always a marionette lingering somewhere. Now, this is the only other skip that we currently use in routing for this game. People better at the movement than me can get all the way across without falling into the pit, but from what I can tell, it doesn't really lose me much time to fall into the pit. So, again, I fall into the pit, and you spawn up on that bridge, avoiding a whole bunch of movement. There is apparently a way for you to boost up in this arena to be on top of the doorway that you come through, and for enemies to not have any way to get you, but I like being down, getting in fights with all these enemies. It feels faster to me to be down here fighting them. It feels like I have more control over where the enemies are, where my shots go. It just feels faster and more consistent to me. I think it's a matter of preference at that point. I have never taken the time to time it out as to whether or not you use the boost up to the top, but it's just how I like to do it. This is my least favorite battle arena in Costas, my least favorite arena in my favorite split, because you gotta deal with eyeless, you gotta deal with really poorly placed health crystals that if you break them through a wall, you just heal up like that. So now I'm trying to damage down with this shield cambion, didn't get it. Thankfully, I do have a very easy backup, taking out this Hierophant here. Also, hi, introduction to Hierophants. They spawn explosive pawns, I guess? Pawns, we'll call them pawns. They spawn explosive pawns that are inconvenient at best, but thankfully those pawns detonate. I crush those two Styx crystals that come into this battle arena, and here is my damage down backup. This is your introduction to elite behemoths. They have a lot more health than regular behemoths, and they attack a lot more and a lot faster and deal a decent amount of damage still. And again, we're still losing time because we're not dealing that double damage. Now we're finally back off of losing time because, again, we were finally back in Aegis mode. We're back on, as I like to call it, the script. You see the enemies spawning down there, back up here. I know that they're going to spawn behind me. I know there's another elite behemoth spawning there. I know that there's the Hierophant spawning there alongside a few marionettes. So I just fire off the ultimate there, just to take them all over into that corner. Apparently I missed a marionette, but that's fine. You just turn around because you know they're going to be coming up behind you. Fun fact about the Encostas boss fight: if you fall off the wrong part of the arena, there's a non-zero chance of it soft-locking you. As much as I love Encostas as a split, I do hate the boss fight because if you botch damaging this first attack down, or botch avoiding that attack, then you take an unintentional death. Thankfully, I have become very, very consistent at avoiding that attack, and the rest of this boss fight is very scripted because if you see that little spot on the arena right here, we have a nice little setup where we sit here. We don't have to worry about the fire, we don't have to worry about the attacks, but it's basically kind of an auto-scroller at this point. We damage it down until it doesn't take any more damage, and then the attack just lands around us. We wait for the next phase of little minions to spawn up, take out the Cambion, take out the Behemoth, let the marionettes come in close, and reset into our little spot again. This is our spot, it was made for us. And throw our Hellcrow up at the head of the Red Judge once more. At the end there, you did see that number correctly. It did approximately 3-4 times damage. The Red Judge seemed to be flashing gold on its head very briefly and took a metric butt ton of extra damage. Reason for that is certain times in the game it will go into a bit of a vulnerable phase, but the fact of the matter is we're dealing too much damage already in our speedrunning ways that the vulnerability phases are not usually applicable to how we're running. Moving on to Genna, from my favorite split to my least favorite split. Gotta have the good with the bad, right? Genna is my least favorite split because of two different battle arenas that come back to back, and also the boss fight. I just do not enjoy the boss fight. However, it's still, honestly, a great level. This is the level that introduces you to the angels. The forces of heaven come down to stop the unknown's attack. Moving through the first battle arena here in Genna. Just damaging down, using the swarms to our advantage. Setting up, taking out that last Cambion. Picking off the marionettes, and then damaging this elite behemoth from a range. I believe the elite behemoth's actual names are siege behemoths. Been a while since I've checked the actual names in the codex. Codex comes with the game, unlocks as you play it. It's great, love it. Very useful for lore and for information on the game. Was annoyed at losing a few seconds there because, again, sometimes the enemies just take a long time to spawn in. It's just free time loss. And that, right there, that big thing that screamed and glowed blue was a Seraph. A lesser Seraph, more specifically. We don't deal with the stronger Seraphs on lower difficulty, thankfully. They are absolutely terrifying to deal with on higher difficulties. But that takes care of the early battle arenas, and we get now into the two battle arenas that I absolutely hate. This is the one battle arena in the game that I feel genuinely was not really designed that well. It's a big circular arena with a lot of things blocking your sight lines, and a lot of enemies that like to cut off your means of attack. You've got a lot of shield Cambions that are going to constantly be turning this into a bullet hell. You've got a lot of eyeless that are going to be constantly trying to spit acid at you and throw acid up into the air. And again, all these different sightlines that are constantly getting cut off from you are going to make you miss a few enemies here and there. Just makes it so inconvenient to clear this room efficiently. That's why I have nothing but respect for the IL runners of this level that have taken the time so low on it. Massive shout out to Cheeky8 and Resbic for just annihilating this level in ways I cannot imagine. And then, of course, that Seraph just loves to dodge all over the place. Ear warning, headphone warning. There we go. That drum beat is much louder when you're listening in-game. I have turned it down ever so slightly. Still not sure where that initial heal came from, but I decided just to commit to that heal since it had already happened and shatter all these Styx crystals in this arena. This is my second least favorite arena. Again, confined spaces not done right in this case. a lot of heavy-hitting enemies in a tight space with suboptimal sightlines. I do just try to get in here, abuse the fact that the Vulcan uses explosive rounds, but a lot of tanky enemies with big health pools and suboptimal sightlines. Sure, it's scripted, I know where they're going to be, but it doesn't necessarily make it any better sometimes. It finishes off, of course, with 2 behemoths, just to put icing on that cake of awful. And now, moving on to the final boss of Genna, my, again, least favorite boss in the game. I'm worse at the Acheron boss fight, but I hate the Genna boss fight. A lot of inconveniently placed Styx crystals for us to accidentally heal off of. And then this attack right here. Oh right, I did manage to skip it in my PB run. There's a very, very small chance that if you do it right, you can skip a suction attack. Had I done it perfectly, he wouldn't have done it at all, but the red judge decided to do it anyway, where she'll suck the air just into the middle, create a little bit of vortex. You gotta dance around the middle, avoid the lava. If you do it well, you can avoid that happening as well. It's just not a great arena for a boss fight. The enemy spawns are also very inconvenient. The marionettes do not like navigating this arena at all. Half the time the lava in the center of the arena doesn't even damage you either. But I will say, the game is trying its best. Thankfully, this attack here that the red judge is throwing at us is useful, at least for damaging back down into Aegis. Lost a lot of time due to healing unintentionally, and of course, laptop user there. The reason for flicking right up there is brief tap of the trackpad unintentionally. Laptop user moment. But it is just a very inconvenient floor and boss fight. The fact that all the boss fights are already kind of forced time loss or forced auto-scrollers, you can't complete them faster than a certain amount of time, is inconvenient enough to me. It already makes me have a certain level of disdain for them. Though I will say, Nile, the boss fight of the next floor, is the worst offender of it. Genna's boss fight is just my absolute least favorite. Nile's boss fight at least has a reason to be as slow as it is. Speaking of, welcome to the fastest of the later floors. Nile has probably, I would be willing to say, the fastest battle arenas and standard combat outside of boss combat. It's probably one of the floors that I am actually better at too. Plus, Nile also has the fastest BPM of any of the hells. Fun little opening there with a bunch of shield cambions. And then finishing it off with a Seraph. Bunch of quick little schmovement here with some dash tech there. Just jumping through those hallways. Perching up over here, shattering that Styx crystal, and then pivoting back and forth to take out the marionettes as they spawn, take out this eyeless. That's kind of my indicator of, okay, I can now jump across if I need to. The reason I haven't shattered the one behind me is because, again, I don't want to shatter the one behind me unless I'm on the other side and I avoid picking up the health. However, I didn't even need to jump across. I was able to use the default strat and avoid shattering the Styx crystal there. This is probably the most satisfying battle arena. I'll just let you enjoy this. Just a satisfying battle arena there. Small little waves, an elite enemy accompanied by a marionette, and you're able to just burn right through them there. It feels like so much fun every single time I do it. You go through it so quickly, and then just this arena here. Again, sure, there's a lot of cut-off sightlines, but it's done well. The sightlines that you need are open enough, and they're long enough. There's enough long open sightlines across, and the explosions from the Vulcan work well enough. Plus the enemies will be moving through the arena well enough that you can use them. This is again a blocked off arena done well, as opposed to some of the arenas in Genna. I just absolutely love this entire floor with Nile. As much as I love Encaustus, with Encaustus being my favorite split, this is probably my favorite set of battle arenas. If Nihil didn't have the boss fight that it did, it might be my favorite split. But going through that Voidstalker, accompanied by these two Seraphs, is just such a satisfying fight there. The movement here is always a little awkward because of the slight slopes that you're going through, but thankfully was able to get through it pretty well here. And again, we're into the boss fight in less than 3 minutes. The only, well, less than 4 minutes, my apologies. The only other floor where we've been to the boss fight in less than 4 minutes has been Vogue. Just for reference there. Maybe Stygia as well. I'd have to double check the specific timing on that boss fight. It was close for Stygia at least. But Nile is so fast, and then it has just an absolute slog of a boss fight. And the best part about this boss fight is if you over damage the boss at any point and just damage it far too much early on, it can soft lock in the final phase. It's a very fun soft lock, but it is an inconvenience and has killed many a run for us in the community. Now, there are reasons for this boss fight to be as slow as it is. The whole splitting thing there that the red judge is doing, splitting into multiple parts. There's plot reasons behind it. If you watch the lore of the game, it's got reasoning behind it. The whole disillusion, splitting into multiple parts, it's got lore, it's got reason, so that's why it doesn't end up on my poop list like Genna. It at least has a reason to be designed the way it is, and while it is slow, it's not nearly as bad as I like to think it is. And honestly, once you learn the patterns, it's a pretty fun boss fight to do and just absolutely wreck the boss consistently. Firing off the Vulcan's ultimate into the center there just to take out some of those enemies really quickly. Far faster than I had any right to. Fun fact, there was a Voidstalker in there, but the Voidstalker got sucked up by the ultimate of the Vulcan there, made my job a little bit easier. Setting off the ultimate of the Hellcrow now, those circles of blades. Occasionally, because this final attack does take so long, I do like to do a little bit of a just swag move here, take damage and just literally let the unknown die while this attack finishes out and respawn, because the animation takes so long that I lose no time. However, if I don't have to take a death, I'm not going to. Therefore, we're out of Nihil and straight into Acheron. Admittedly, until I got better at Encaustus, Acheron used to be my favorite split. but as I got better at Encaustus and admittedly grew to loathe the Acheron boss fight, it has become my second favorite instead of my favorite. Acheron is unique because Acheron takes away Paz, and hilariously enough, this is one of the floors where Paz would actually be really, really useful for routing. There's a few spots where you would probably have a high risk of accidentally healing and using Paz to damage back down by crystallizing some of the marionettes that are rather abundant in this floor would be very, very useful. It would be very nice to have Paz there, but the Red Judge managed to steal Paz between Nile and Acheron. So, it is a very conveniently placed inconvenience. It's a nice little bit of plot and inconvenience going hand in hand. It's that nice moment where you're going through the level, and even as speedrunners, you're kind of reminded, if you've ever done a proper casual playthrough, you're reminded, oh man, I really miss Paz. I really want to finish this level so I can get Paz back. It's great. I absolutely love it. It just shows, again, a lot of the thought and care that went into this game from the devs. Absolutely wonderfully designed by everyone at Funcom and the Outsiders. Now, accidental heal there, but I'm going to go ahead and take that accidental heal and use it to avoid another accidental heal, since, admittedly, this is the one part of Acheron that almost always manages to throw me off. That Styx crystal is placed so inconveniently with how these marionettes like to spawn. If you do it perfectly, it looks amazing. If you do it imperfectly, you end up with an unnecessary heal and a little bit of time loss. A couple of behemoths coming in there to throw off your rhythm as well. Having to use extra rounds to take them down because I did have extra health, so I'm not in Aegis, I'm not dealing my double damage right now, but sneaking shots right through that perfectly placed gap there so you can just blast those imps as they're coming through. I don't know why I keep calling them imps. I've been playing too much Doom lately. I keep calling them imps instead of Cambions. But you do finish off that arena with a Stalker and a Void Stalker. I do intentionally shoot that Eyeless right there, not just because of my personal vendetta against Eyeless, but because that Eyeless in particular has managed to snipe me with a quick attack or a ball of acid as I have been running past multiple times and ruined multiple PB pace runs. So, yeah, needless to say, that Eyeless and I have history. Same as one Eyeless after this particular battle arena, but yeah, we'll get to him when we get there. Though, I will point out one thing real quick, the Siege Behemoth, the Elite Behemoth, as I shorthand it to, that opens this battle arena is kind of a nice little backup to have for if you're not able to easily damage down at the end of the last battle arena. They're a convenient way to damage back down if you accidentally heal up either en route or near the end of that last battle arena that you were just in. Good way to get back into Aegis. It's a nice little trick for us as speedrunners if we're ever in a run where we're just practicing and we make a mistake. It's a nice little backup to have. Shattering that Styx crystal again. I never go over to that alleyway, but it's nice to have that there. Almost died there to that Seraph's beam, but thankfully didn't. Seraphs are honestly some of the most terrifying because those lasers can go through walls, plus if they get up close and personal, those attacks can just explode on you. Now again, the Stalkers showing why their default forms are honestly far more terrifying than their elite forms. Elite Stalkers, the Void Stalkers, these blue guys right here, they're tough, they're scary, but they're really not that scary compared to regular Stalkers. Sure, they've got more health and they've got those electric attacks, but their attacks go slow. Now, speaking of my vendettas against Eyeless, this bridge is just perfectly imperfect. So when you're going over that bridge, you can't fully just jump it in one, but you also can't really properly dash at it either. And that gives the Eyeless on the other side of that bridge just enough time to possibly throw an acid ball at you if you're really unlucky. It is the most infuriating Eyeless I have ever had to deal with. Only seconded by the Eyeless that has managed to snipe me on the way to the battle arena that we finished just before this one. They just had a lot of fun with the Eyeless in Acheron, and, well, again, it's just, my vendetta against Eyeless is never ending. I don't like bugs, I don't like acid, and, well, here they are. And this battle arena in particular is, in my opinion, one of the hardest ones to damage down well in. So if you accidentally take some health like I did, it's hard to damage down efficiently, it's hard to damage down without dying. So if you get into a bad position where you have behemoths or marionettes coming at you from all sides, go with the marionettes and pray, basically. Though, of course, you're fighting the forces of heaven, so don't count on those prayers being answered. little bit of humor there for running a game where you're fighting through hell. At this point, with the amount of health that I have, I was figuring may as well just avoid taking a death, since staying at my max damage here would be a bit better, since it's very easy to damage down on this boss, but very hard to restore Fury. Once those sigils that you see are gone, they are gone for good. So I just tried to carefully damage down here for this boss fight. I will say, when I got to this boss fight, my hands were shaking a little bit because I knew, even despite the bad splits, well, not bad splits, they were very good splits from what you can see, but having a bad split file, I still knew that I was on pace for an actual PB compared to my 5420 that I was running against to try to improve at this point. Thankfully, I managed to keep up my pace by avoiding the massive AoE attack that this boss likes to do. It's a very hard setup that I'm still not admittedly consistent at to try and avoid that attack and to damage this boss down efficiently as possible. I do think I missed the damage down this time, and that AoE attack, this is not surprisingly enough the AoE attack I was talking about. I guess I did actually manage to avoid it all through face. I had not walked this run back all the way yet. I had forgotten what happened in the moment because I was just dialed in and going for it. Perhaps the attack happens at the very end because the boss does like to throw it out at the very end. That explosion attack is very inconvenient. There we go, there's the AoE attack. A lot of those landmines come out, and then just a massive burst of bullets that home in on you, fly out. It is the absolute worst, and it can come out every single phase, but somehow I managed to get my setup right there and avoid it until the very end, where it's almost guaranteed to come out. I knew I was very well ahead of the pace that I needed to get a proper PB in Shoal, seeing as my personal best time for Shoal at this point was an 8-minute and 30-second run, and I do believe, if I remember correctly, I improved upon that in this run as well. There is technically a small movement skip that you can do at the start of Shoal, but I do not personally route it in, mostly because I prefer to build up my Fury meter early as opposed to routing it in. Plus, I don't personally see it taking any less time I did have a little bit of an inconvenient spawn here from this Siege Behemoth. Normally, with the positioning that I was using, that Siege Behemoth can and will spawn on top of that bridge there. You'll go up onto the bridge, damage down in one of the pillars using the Siege Behemoth. And then if you haven't fully damaged down into Aegis mode, you'll damage down with the Cambions there. Lost a lot of time here to not being, 1, in Aegis, and 2, not being able to manage the enemies well in a unfamiliar pattern. So, again, just a consistency thing, being able to adjust on the fly to unfamiliar patterns when the enemy spawn patterns don't necessarily go your way despite doing the same setup you always do. There are slight inconsistencies that do happen in this game every single time. And I was already behind compared to my PB, but thankfully I had a very, very good boss fight to finish off this floor, shattering those Styx crystals and that Chaos crystal because I had no need for them yet. Working my way through, honestly, my favorite battle arena of this floor, taking a careful amount of health, sadly getting too close and ruining that careful amount of health that I opened with, utilizing the Stalker here to damage back down because Stalkers are much more useful than Behemoths and attack very quickly and very often, so using them to damage down is almost always the right way to go. Taking out the shield behemoths that spawn here, finishing off the straggler marionette, and then the siege behemoth in the back, just tanking that shot and hitting them with more firepower from the Vulcan crossbow. If you notice my keybinds, since we're in a little bit of movement here, down on the bottom there you can see that I have thumb buttons on my mouse. I have the Vulcan bound to the top thumb button and the Hellcrow bound to the bottom thumb button. It means that I am able to do weapon swaps very easily. Some other runners still choose to, or are forced to because they don't have mice with thumb buttons, swap using 3 and 4 on their keyboard or some other keybinds. Quick swaps can be done with any sort of keybind, and I just choose to use the thumb buttons on my mouse because it's the most convenient way for me to do it. A quick rock back and forth of my thumb from the bottom to the top, and I have a quick swap, and then I have 8 more rounds of ammo in my Vulcan crossbow, thanks to the Ghost Rounds sigil. Ghost Rounds and the Vulcan crossbow truly do carry this run, and particularly this floor. This floor would not be what it is without the Vulcan crossbow. We even used the Vulcan crossbow in the fight against the final boss here, the Red Judge herself. This is the final battle arena of the game, and it's honestly probably the hardest. This is where I probably take 90% of my deaths when I'm running this game. I'm trying out this new setup. 2 different setups that I have used are this setup and then also on that central staircase where the Eyeless was. But as you see, if you just even jump into a little puddle of Eyeless acid, well, if you're on too low of health, ta-da, you die. And thus, my vendetta against the Eyeless continues. Lost a solid 5-6 seconds there to that respawn, just from having to menu through the respawn and cancel out the animations. And now I'm losing more time again due to the damaging down and having to build back up Fury to max damage, because your damage does scale with your Fury as well. So again, taking a death is always, at least in my opinion, worse than taking an accidental heal, because you lose time to the respawn animations, you lose time to the respawn menuing. You see me there tactically taking a few bits of health there, because I know that I've already damaged past the point where the red judge can take any more damage. There's only certain amounts of damage that this boss can take per phase. And now for the part that I either do really well at or really poorly at every single time. The red judge now has vulnerable spots on her hand, her shoulder, and her sword. I always open by starting with the hand. I next move to the shoulder, and then I try to get the sword in motion, but the sword in motion is really hard to hit. Mostly because I really want to try and avoid that attack coming out if we can, because it locks you into the full animation of that attack. Thankfully, if the attack does come out, you can take some health and then damage back down through it. But it does lose a lot of time if you take that attack. Swapping to the Hell Crow ever so briefly here to take out the few aspects of the red judge, because she just spawns in a few aspects of herself. Thankfully, a few quick throws of the Hell Crow do take out those aspects, and then straight on back to the Vulcan, as both of her eyes are now vulnerable spots. And she retreats briefly to throw a final set of enemies at us, a few waves quickly here. We perch up on this side here to take them out as fast as possible. I'm fairly certain it's at least one of every type of enemy that you have encountered throughout the entire game up to this point, except for heavenly enemies such as Seraphs, because she has banished them back to heaven at this point. And of course it saves the Siege Behemoths and the Eyeless for the very last. And then she just crawls forward in a final attack. As soon as you see that last eye glowing, you just unload, and time is when she shrinks back down and hits the ground. You can hear me muttering to myself there. I had thought that it wasn't even going to be sub 54 because of how long this animation takes, but it was actually a 53:57. That fade to black made it exactly what I had hoped it would be. So, I do hope you have enjoyed this run. I do hope you enjoy this game and this category as much as I do. I think a nice, safe estimate for this game would be 1 hour. Nice little 1 hour run, seeing as I can consistently get sub-hour in my run attempts. That does leave room for any potential mistakes like accidental deaths or accidental heals, because as you saw, even this run was not perfect. But a few mistakes here and there are not going to slow me down that much, and I am familiar with, thankfully, being on the GDQ stage, so the pressure will, while it will be there, will not be too strong. It would be lovely to have the chance to return to the GDQ stage if invited. If not, thank you for watching, thank you for your consideration, and have a wonderful day. Until next time.